Welcome to the Rock Fight, where we speak our truth, slay sacred cows, and sometimes agree to disagree. This is an outdoor podcast that aims for the head. I'm Colin True, and joining me today, with all of this rain, he can't keep up with the rust spots on his Cybertruck. It's Justin Housman.
I saw one the other day for the second time.
No way. Second time? I haven't even seen one yet.
I saw one parked at near Sugar Bowl, which is a ski area near Tahoe, like a month ago.
Yeah.
And my wife and I were like, oh, there it is. Let's get close to it. Like, let's take stupid pictures of it. But we couldn't quite figure out how they got to where they were, or it was complicated. And we're like, and then the other day I was coming back from a surf over in Bolinas, the little town to the west of here. And sure enough, I could see it. It was like a long straightaway, like a 2-lane road, like super long straightaway. And I'm like, what is that? Oh my God, that's gonna be a Cybertruck. It has to be. Like I could tell from the headlights, like one solid like necklace of headlights. And rolls up, and sure enough, here it comes. Just dirty. It just looked like shit.
Probably rusty. I mean, that was all the news yesterday. Like, a little bit of rain can cause like a little rust flecks on your, which I guess they buff right out. But it's like, yeah, here's a $100,000 car. You got to make sure you buff it every time it rains.
What is it made out of?
Stainless steel.
Stainless steel doesn't rust.
It's not supposed to.
What the hell?
I saw one thing they said that might be like the debris from railroad tracks, and I don't know, man.
You know what? I wonder if it gets like little rock chips, like once it's maybe the inside will rust or something. That's amazing.
Today we're going to be running through some of the latest headlines that come out of the outdoor industry and community. But before we get to that, we're recording this on Friday, February 16th. I had 15th written in the outline. That was bad of me. Which means we made it to the weekend. Which also means that it's time for America's favorite podcast segment, What is Justin Doing This Weekend? Presented by Long Weekend Coffee. So Justin, America wants to know, what are you doing this weekend? You didn't think about this at all, did you?
Did think about this. Trying to make it sound cool.
Are you going to the dump?
I wish. Colin, it hasn't stopped raining here for since I don't know, November. And
this is the time of year when the NorCal, SoCal conversation, slides in our favor.
Yeah, it does, because it is going to be pissing rain starting tonight until Tuesday, and then take like a 2-minute break, and then rain throughout the entire month, which is even more of a kick in the balls because it's a leap year. So there's one extra day in February. Just a little. I don't know, man. I would be hiding from the rain. Like, I think we're gonna clean our kids' rooms. It's gonna suck. It's like the 3-day weekend, and I'm not doing anything. Like, I can't. You will go outside, you immediately drown. So I don't know.
Do you still have your tent up in the backyard?
No, I took it down, and it's a huge problem because it hasn't stopped raining, so I can't dry it out. So I don't know what's happening to it.
It's just sitting out in the backyard.
No,
collapsed.
I took it down. It's like balled up in a bin, but I'm sure it's it's achieved sentience at this point. There's so much mold in there, but. Oh gosh, I don't know how people.
Just walking around.
Anybody listening to this? Well, you lived in the Pacific Northwest. Like what?
Yeah.
What in the hell?
Well, so most Pacific Northwest, I felt like there definitely were big storms where it rained, but most of the time it's just kind of gray and misty, which I like. Well, I like going mountain biking and running in that.
Deal with that, but it's just oh god, like the 2 little kids. Our house was small. Ugh. I'll be drinking lots of coffee though. I'll be drinking a lot of coffee.
Well, speaking of Long Weekend Coffee, I'm not going to do my typical outro because I've heard from the folks at Long Weekend that our promo code ROCK10 is not being heavily used. It's been used, but not heavily used. Lightly used might even be a stretch. So I want to let our audience know, look, I buy this coffee myself. They don't give me any. I don't get anything for this other than some support on the show. So I'm telling you, this is good coffee.
It is
buy
really
the
good.
Secret Handshake. Please give it a try. This is a personal endorsement from me, not just reading you a random ad that you're waiting to hit the 15-second button and get to the silly things that Justin and I are about to say about some things that were in the news. So go buy some Long Weekend Coffee, Secret Handshake, more weekend, please. We'll put the tagline on.
It is a 3-day weekend. It is a long weekend.
It's a 4-day weekend here.
What?
Kids are off today and Monday.
Interesting.
Well, we're going to start today with a couple of stories that came out over the past week from the top of the world, which, of course, is Mount Everest. So I got 2 things. I'll read the summary from both of them, and then we can address them together. So the first, and this is well-covered news. I saw it in a few places, but I found this on the BBC, which that climbers on Mount Everest will now have to pack their poop off of the mountain, which is something I never really thought of before, because high up on the mountain, Apparently, people just kind of poop out in the open when they need to go. And according to the BBC, people climbing Mount Everest will now have to clear up their own poo and bring it back to base camp to be disposed of. Our mountains have begun to stink. Mingma Sherpa, chairman of the local municipality, told the BBC, due to the extreme temperatures, excrement left on Everest does not fully degrade. We're getting complaints that human stools are visible on rocks and some climbers are falling sick. This is not acceptable and erodes our image. So they're going to have to buy poo bags, and then that will be checked on their return. So you're going to have to like prove that you pooped in a bag while you're up there.
That's amazing. What if you didn't poop?
I thought of that because I think, didn't you say, like, I don't think I would poop if I was up that high?
Hell I'd be pooping it up.
I don't think I would be either, unless I had a problem.
Well, we don't need to talk about it. Yeah, I'm not. We don't need to get into it, but I doubt I would.
Well, then the second part, it kind of plays into it too, is about the amenities at base camp. So Explorers Web reported this week that Khumbu authorities are trying to curb luxurious amenities at Everest Base Camp. They want to limit the huge dome tents that dominate every team's base camp with comfy armchairs, spacious tables, jumbo screens, and great views of the mountains. And they also want to limit the amount of helicopters that shuttle gear and climbers between higher camps on the mountain. There are some climbers that in the past have taken a helicopter from base camp to Camp 2 so they could skip the Khumbu icefall.
Huh.
And now I think both of these sound like worthy initiatives when you hear them laid out. I don't know why anyone would have a problem with this, but the thing I want to talk about is like, why does anyone climb Mount Everest anymore?
I'm just gonna say that.
It's like, so now here's the recap I've heard over the last few years. You have to spend more money than most people make in a year to go to a place to stand in long lines with a bunch of other rich assholes, in a place where your body is actively dying. You're surrounded by frozen dead bodies and turds, and the more rich you are, it means that you get to have the amenities of home. Because nothing says big mountain adventure like watching True Detective in base camp before shuttled past the scary parts of the mountain. Like, this is not an adventure. This is an expensive, deadly, gross, humble brag at this point. I never been one to want to do this, but I don't know, man. What do you think of all this?
I don't care remotely about climbing Mount Everest. I mean, like, it's just not interesting to me. It was like it's interesting when it was 50 years ago, and there's obviously ways to do it that are burly. I mean, it's not a joke, you know.
It's not a joke.
A lot of people die, but I have to agree with you. I don't know why. Like, a neighbor of mine is like kind of starting down the path. Like, he's taking a mountaineering course next month, and like his idea is to eventually do Everest. I'm like, for what, dude? He's just bored. Like, he's just bored. I have a couple thoughts. One is like I don't know what it's like to have that feeling that you need to stand on the highest thing. Like, are you a goat? Like, I've never, like, it's never made any sense to me. So, like, what's the difference? Like, are you aware when you're on Everest that you're on the highest point on Earth? No. I mean, you could probably feel like you do if you're on top of Rainier. I mean, like, it's the highest thing around. Like, is it that?
You've been on top of mountains, though, right? It's a cool feeling to be on top of a mountain.
Of course, but like, like, why do you need to be on the top? Like, it seems silly to have to be on the highest possible place on the Earth. I mean, like, are you really gonna like not be able to like die peacefully knowing that you didn't make it to the top of Everest? It seems silly to me. It wouldn't if 4 people did it a year and it was pristine. Then it would make all the sense in the world. But I mean, this is all in with the context of what it's actually, as far as I know, like today to climb Everest. Like, at this point, it seems like there's massively diminishing returns from that experience, I would think. So I don't know. We actually talked about this on AJ the other day. I'm baffled that this wasn't already a thing with poop bags. Like I don't understand how poop bags aren't already. That should be normal everywhere. Like, I haven't.
I climbed Rainier. We had bags. I mean,
yeah, you have like if you do Whitney, you have to have a bag.
Right.
I mean, like, I don't go camping without. I have a portable toilet and I use poop bags. Like, I've done this for years now. Like, I don't dig holes. Like, if I'm backpacking, I would.
Well,
but even then, I might not. Frankly, like, I'd probably go with the bag. It makes more sense. Like,
this is probably
too much crap.
Well, then it's all literally. I think it's the. I'm sure this is something that wasn't thought of before. The crowds have just kind of gotten out of control, which it really feels like it has on that mountain. I mean, it's off-putting enough for me where you see the line.
Wouldn't you feel like a dick taking a shit on Everest anyway? I mean, it's a very sacred place.
Yeah.
I mean, like it just seems weird. I mean, I don't know. I guess you do what Sherpa do. I guess. I don't know. I just feel like that is not something that I would, if I was climbing Everest, I would assume I have to bring poop bags. That would just, I'm baffled that this isn't already.
And look, I get the altitude fucks with you at that at that point. At the same, they say in the article about how like, well, sometimes there's places where it's icy and you can't dig a hole or whatever. It's like, come on, man. If you have to go, if you have an emergency, like at least just drop a rock on top or something. You know what I mean? Like it just seems kind of crazy to me that wouldn't happen anyway. But I agree with you. Like, why wouldn't you? An outfitter should just bring poop bags, even if it's not required. Like, here you go. If you have to go up high, this is what you do.
I guess you're in like a crazy snowsuit. I've never worn like a full body mountaineering suit. I mean, I'm sure it's complicated, but then you still have to take it off to poop. So, well, presumably, I don't know. Wear a diaper. Is that an option? Like, I don't know. It's gross. It's just I don't mean gross like it's like smelly poop gross. I mean the whole thing to me seems gross at this point.
It's the whole exactly, and that's what I mean about it. Doesn't feel like adventure. One of the first sets of interviews I did, like when we started the Rock Fight, that were actually kind of repurposed from another show, but it was in response to lines on K2.
Yeah.
And Steve Casimiro from AJ was one of the people I spoke to about it, and it was, is this adventure? And of course, most people who weighed in were like, well, it's an individual decision to determine what's adventure and what isn't and those kinds of things. And yes, if you're going up on Mount Everest or K2, then yeah, it is an adventure. And it is. But it's kind of, what are you looking to get out of your adventure? Even if you're being guided, I have no problem with being guided. And I understand going to these places, hiring a guide to be responsible, even if you're a really good mountaineer, probably. It's a good idea to have somebody with you who knows what they're doing. But there's 14 8,000 meter peaks and a lot of other peaks over there that are probably just below, 8,000 meters. Wouldn't it be badass to go to one of those and like hike up a line or climb a line? There's not as many people there, if any,
you
and to your point,
you want there.
No one's going there. Poop all over the place. But yeah, you get to the top. And I can't imagine the experience is that much different. It just feels like so much like it's a humble brag ego thing that people are like, I'm going to climb Everest. It's like, why don't you say I'm going to go climbing in the Himalaya? I don't know.
I agree. And I would just like implore anybody listening, just stop digging cat holes when you're camping. Just stop doing it. Just use a bag, figure it out. I mean,
carry it out. Yeah.
Yeah. Carry it with you. I mean, like, one, we know now that it's, like if you're backpacking, you're probably staying in places everybody else stays too, and then most of them are pooping there. And like it's it was one thing when like it was the 60s and 70s, and we're kind of new into this, but it's 2024. People are going to all the same spots. You're not Lewis and Clark. You're not pioneering new territory. You're pooping where somebody else pooped at this point, and it's bad. I mean, I also think that when you are in the habit of digging cat holes while you're backpacking or camping, and it's easier to kind of overlook, like, because how everybody listening to this knows this situation. You're like, I'm backpacking, I need to poop. That tree looks good. And you go over there and sure enough, a little bit of toilet paper, you see it, right? Yeah. And how often does this happen? And you're like, okay, well, clearly somebody else had this idea too, or whatever. That is, when you're also digging cat holes, I feel like that is something that you're kind of like, well, everybody else is doing it. Everybody else had the same idea. Like, it doesn't bother you as much, but since I've stopped doing that and I've started using poop bags, wag bags, whatever you want to call them. Yeah. Now when I see a little bit of toilet paper, I become enraged. I mean, it's like, this is so freaking gross.
Yeah, that's the double whammy, because like you should at least be packing out the toilet paper, even if you're going to poop in a hole.
No, most people they leave it. Everybody.
That's bullshit.
Most people leave it, and it's just gross. It's like nobody deserves to like walk into that situation. And like I don't know whether it's good or bad for the soil. I don't care, frankly. It's just gross, And it's just like, just pack it out. I don't care if you're on Everest or in like your state park. Just pack it out. Just be a grown up. The bags are great. They're double sealed. Yeah. You can't tell. It's fine.
What about the other piece of this, of the amenities thing? I mean, that's another one that I goes to the money. Like, I kind of get, and I knew that like base camps, there were people talked about a base camp at Everest.
Like people will just go to base camp.
Yeah,
to check it out
people
and
have set up like massage tents and stuff. And I understand that. Look, you're bringing people who aren't going to climb. There's medical people that there's the need for amenities. You're going to go live on this mountain for 3 months. It can't just be you in your backpacking tent sleeping on a thermarest. I get that. But you're generating power to run a television, so you can like I presumably use like Starlink or something, so that you can get internet. Back to the early part of our conversation, and and again, like this is probably Everest Base Camp is probably maybe a pro for something like Starlink, but not so you can watch your shows while you're waiting to climb the mountain. Right. Which, by the way, maybe you're taking a fucking helicopter to skip the Khumbu icefall. Like, frankly, I'm like, if I'm motivated to climb Everest,
I'm surprised.
I want to go through the Khumbu icefall.
I'm pretty surprised that's not. I guess to a certain degree, that probably is really energy sapping. So maybe if you skip it, you're more likely to survive the entire experience. But to me, it seems like if you can't do that part, you shouldn't be able to climb to the top. I feel
agree.
like amenities are fine for the like first responders. I mean, if there's, I don't know, are there
Right.
full-time mountain rescue people there now? If there are,
Probably.
great, they can have a place to chill.
Yeah.
But at the same time, to me, all of this stuff is like I feel like it should be like this anywhere. The locals should get to decide, or whoever the closest thing to locals are. Like, do they want that there? Do they not mind? Okay, great.
It's such a weird thing, and I guess I can't relate to it all because, like, okay, our long gestating bike trip that we keep wanting to take, and,
Right.
You know, we're now it's raining, so that's why we haven't taken it yet, right? But like, you know, we could easily say let's go stay in a hotel somewhere. We're like, no, let's find a campground, let's do this,
Well,
or let's bike
yeah.
pack or whatever it is. And it's like, if I'm going to climb Everest, it's not that I would want to be intentionally uncomfortable. It's like, why do you want to spend all that money, go to a place where you're climbing a mountain, but then set it up so that it's trying to be,
As
you
easy
know, a
as
watered down
possible.
version of your house.
I
It's
don't know.
not
Go to therapy instead. You're trying to fill a hole. Clearly, just go to therapy.
right. Like, good for the local municipalities here for saying, you know, we're not going to do it this way anymore. You want to climb the mountain, you got to go through the ice fall. Let's go. You know,
Yeah.
and pick up your shit.
Yeah. Pick up. Everybody has to bring one body back. Everybody,
That's
one
what I mean.
body.
Can you imagine? Like, hey, so you see that line, 100 people, like we're at freaking Disneyland? Yeah, we're going to stand in that. I know you can't breathe. And when you get about 30 feet up the slope, there's a dead body there.
Yeah, you have to step over multiple dead bodies.
You're going to hang out by that for 20 minutes.
Just can't quite get to it, I guess.
Next up are some headlines from the surf world. You had mentioned the Lexus Pipe Pro women's contest that happened this past week in Oahu. Surfer.com reported this event would go down in history. You know, what was it about this that caught your attention that you wanted to talk about it?
Well, it's interesting because I feel like we talked about it on the show, maybe not, but like surf contests normally I don't really care. There's something about the Pipeline event. So, you know, Pipeline is this, if you don't know, it's the kind of the most famous wave in the world. It's the like pretty hairball barrel on the North Shore of Oahu that breaks really close to shore. So it's a great contest venue. I mean, it's like yards from the beach. You can actually feel the waves break when it's big on the sand. It rumbles. It's pretty incredible. Easily the world's most dangerous wave in terms of actual like fatalities and people that get hurt. It's no joke. And it's been only the last few years where women have competed there. And it's a super aggressively, it's the most aggressive lineup in the world. A lot of testosterone. I mean, you could be the best surfer from your country and show up there and just get your ass handed to you by the wave and the locals. I mean, it's not a place to mess around. But there have been women that have surfed it, of course, but it's always been kind of like on the periphery. And so a few years back, they started. There's been this big push to have women compete in the same places as men on the professional surf tour. And so Pipeline's finally part of the women's tour, and it's still pretty new. And what's been interesting is just to watch the leaps in performance in the last couple of years in women surfing in like these big barrels, which there's no like physical reason why women can't do it. They've honestly usually just get kind of pushed to the periphery. Like you can only surf pipe if you surf pipe. Like you can't just show up and like have it wired. Like you need to surf pipe a lot to be able to actually like make it work. This contest was basically, it was like all the culmination of all of this effort by women that surf big, powerful waves, their efforts to get them on the tour, their efforts to actually get a chance to surf these waves, their water time at these waves is finally increasing. And all of a sudden, it was just like, bang, they're like basically as good as the dudes. Like all of a sudden. And it was the most incredible performance that I've ever seen in any kind of surf event. The final day, it was just, you could feel it. Like you could feel like the moment, like just watching it, like the women were like, it's hard to say this without sounding patronizing, but you could like sort of feel how they were like, wow, we're doing this. Like this is happening. Like we're getting tens, like we're getting giant tubes. Holy shit. Like this is this giant watershed moment in like women surfing. And like women have always had this, like they can't surf big waves. They can't get barreled, like for whatever reason. Like, I don't know why that's sort of been the narrative. Often usually because they're probably pushed to the periphery in lineups where you need the practice to be able to surf. Like I can't surf pipe. I would die. I've surfed for 30 years. I would die surfing Pipeline.
Well, and to your point about it is like it's I mean the localism is real there, and it's also a place where I'm sure like the male pros are showing up all the time, right? It's like it's always a packed lineup if it's going off, right?
Always, and there's a giant hierarchy that you are not in if you don't live there, first of all, and if you're not like there's just it's gotten a little bit. I wouldn't say better because I actually like localism in surfing. It's gotten a bit more open in recent years, but it's still very much a place where you are not just going to show up and paddle out there.
Also, super dangerous. Let's not forget that element of it, too.
Yeah, I mean, like, this has also been the most dangerous. This is the other thing. This has been the most dangerous year in terms of pros getting hurt at pipeline, really, ever. No one's died yet this year, but there's been like 6 or 7 world-class pros that have been like sent to the ICU in Honolulu this year alone from pipe. A guy just came out of a coma a few days ago who's like a very good pipe surfer. I mean, this wave does not joke around.
Yeah, because it's in like when it breaks, it's like 6 inches of water. Right?
It
it's like
depends.
incredibly
that's
shallow.
Part of, it's super shallow, and there's reef heads everywhere, and like it's even if
Yeah.
it was just breaking on sand, it would be horrific.
Right.
But it's what's interesting is that it takes, unfortunately, with surfing, it kind of takes contests for this sort of thing to happen because it's one of the rare, like, these women couldn't have just showed up at Pipeline and be like, we're gonna surf pipe today, and we're gonna get all the waves. So like it's kind of the one time where surf contests actually are this thing where everybody can kind of rally around and like really enjoy as like a community. Like surf contests are often really boring. I mean, nobody really cares who wins, so it's not like you're getting fired up like a football game. But this was a moment where the entire surf world was like glued to their screens, like watching history happen, and it was really freaking neat. And I encourage anybody that can, you can go to the World Surf League website, you can watch the heat replays. But it was just really spectacular. It was just a watershed moment in not just women's surf history, but surf history period. I mean, I'm trying to think of I don't know what an equivalent would be like to the rest of the outdoor sports world.
How do surfers view the whole the competition element of it? Because I mean, for the sport that is such marketed so much on like the the spiritual nature of it and the kind of the vibe of it and everything, and then to have sort of the competitive, the WSL and everything, is that generally accepted? Is there a faction of the surf world that's like fuck all that? Or
we pay attention to it, but I would say that the WSL is probably the least popular of any version of whatever the Pro Surf Tour governing body is. I mean, it's the most it's ridiculous. Like if you watch it now. It looks like it's first of all, it's called the World Surf League. What is that even? League of what? Like it doesn't make any sense. It used to just be the Association of Surfing Professionals. That makes sense, right? Like but they brought in a guy who used to work for the NFL like a few years back to like redo this whole thing. And so like now they have lockers, which is stupid. Like you go, like I used to go all the time to these big tour events. Like you go inside and they have these like wooden lockers and like with their like name on it, like they're playing for the Broncos, and it's just like this is not surfing. And like if you watch the event, it'll have like here's in the heat, and they're all like wearing like this. Well, you can't see me, but like kind of arms crossed, like making a kind of a mean face, and they all have like a uniform on. I mean, like what? Right? It's incredible. I mean I think we all like to joke about how bad the World Surf League has become, and like. I don't think any surfer really gives a shit about competition. I mean, it's a way to make a living for some of these people, but it's never been something that we've particularly cared about. The only reason it's even fun to watch is because it's like, oh, all the best surfers in the world are surfing this wave. Cool. Like, yeah, I'll watch that. But I mean, otherwise, you just watch a surf movie. It gets the same thing. Yeah.
No, man, but it is cool. And those moments are what makes sports and competition, and it's worthy that there is some level when that happens, when it is like Caitlin Clark, setting the women's scoring record for Iowa the other night. Like, I saw I didn't watch the game, but I saw the replay. I watched it 3 or 4 times. It was just awesome because you just, not only just the accomplishment, you're empathizing with the person and their family, but then you just see the fans all going apeshit. And that's kind of probably an analogous moment too, because I don't think a ton of people are that invested in women's college basketball, and now everyone's talking about women's college basketball.
I happily watched a lot of Iowa basketball to watch Caitlin Clark. Like, she's that fun to watch. And honestly, that's how Katie Simmers is, who I believe won the pipe contest. And she's like, I don't even know if she's 18. She might be 19. Just absolutely barnstormed the place. It's so freaking cool to see. And I have 2 little girls, and my 4-year-old at this point, you know how it is. You've got girls. I mean, like my 4-year-old at this point, if we watch anything, she's like, "Oh, I want to watch the girls do it." So like, I'll have them watch surfing sometimes, and she'll be like, "Daddy, I want to watch the girls part." And it's like, I'm so stoked to be able to show her that now. It's absolutely incredible.
Well, I'll find the links on the WSL website, and I'll put it in the show notes so people can check it out for sure. The other thing that came out of surfing this week was on Outside's website. There's a whole feature about Surfline. And you and I were talking a little bit about this, and we kind of just wanted to touch on it because Surfline's an interesting thing. I guess it's interesting probably even if you're not a surfer, because Surfline's an app, and it kind of gives you live updates on where conditions are at breaks all over the world, and there's a lot of cameras
pointing at them, so you can just look at
cameras.
The waves.
Right. It's for guys like you and me who live kind of at least a 20 to 40 minute drive from where we want to surf, it's nice to be able to kind of go on your computer and take a look at it before you get in the car and drive out. Now, it sounds like there's a lot of controversy around it in the surf community about Surfline and what it means, and that's what the kind of the focus of this article was, a bit of the history of it. Just kind of stay on your surfing horse here. You know, why don't I clear out so you can talk about Surfline for a second?
Well, the article was it was interesting. It was written by a guy named Kyle DiNuccio, who's definitely been around. He's a legit surf journalist. Worked at the Surfer Journal for a long time. I know him. He lives in San Francisco. He's a good dude. And he kind of gave like a history of Surfline, but we were talking earlier how he seemed to kind of waffle about whether or not he wanted to make like a judgment call, whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. And it probably, I get it because it's a vice. I mean, Surfline is a total vice if you're a surfer today. If you're if you're really busy and you only have like an hour a day to surf tops, you probably think it's the best thing in the world.
Right.
Because you can actually go, oh, okay, I can drop whatever I need to do right now because the waves look fun and get out there and surf. That sounds amazing. The problem is that everybody else has Surfline, and so I mean, surfing is it's a limited resource, and it's gotten unbelievably more crowded in the last 10 years, 20 years. I mean, to the point where Ocean Beach, which is a very difficult place to surf, the water's cold, the waves are very powerful. Nobody learns to surf at Ocean Beach. Everybody that surfs there came from somewhere else. It's more crowded than a lot of spots like you would surf, Colin, in Southern California. I mean, Ocean Beach is so crowded now, a lot of us don't surf there anymore because of the crowds. And is that because of Surfline? I don't know. Nobody could answer. Nobody could for sure tell you, but probably. I mean, a lot of it is like Ocean Beach. I think has like 8 cameras.
It's a roll
at
least, right? So there's a roll.
Oh yeah,
there. Yeah.
I mean, so there's the crowding element. It no doubt contributes to crowding. There's no question about that. It contributes to crowding. But it's also insanely useful. Well, okay, see, there's also 2 things here. There's the cameras and there's the forecasting. So, like, if you're going to do a surf trip, it used to be you would literally roll dice. Well, not literally.
Yeah, right.
Basically, like, I don't know. There's usually waves in May in Nicaragua. Let's go.
Hope there are waves.
But now you can be, and usually you still kind of do that because you're booking far in advance. But I mean, if you have the means, or if it's like a Baja strike mission, you're just going to drive, you can be like, oh, there's a swell coming. And you're going to be pretty accurate in terms of what it's going to be doing. And so you kind of know. And so, places will tend to get overrun because everybody has the same forecast. Everybody knows that there's waves coming. And that's one thing, whatever, that's that. But the camera thing is, it's a vice. And like, it'd be hard for us to pry it from our hands at this point, but it's not, I think it's probably pretty ultimately bad for it. I mean, the crowding is one thing, but there's also a certain romance to just knowing when the waves are going to be good to a certain degree. I mean, one of the skills, I guess, that like has stuck with me my whole life is like I can tell basically for the most part what ocean conditions look like if I'm within a few miles of the beach just by looking at like the leaves on a tree. I know it sounds insane, or what the clouds look like. Like you learn that like pretty early. I mean, it's almost like a Polynesian wayfinder to a certain degree, where you're just like, okay, wind looks like this. When that tree goes like this, I know that the wind is blowing from this direction, and I know how much, if it's moving this much, I know what that means, like the surface conditions are going to look like. Oh shit, I need to go surf. And like, that's a skill. That's an awesome thing to know. And to rely entirely on a camera, it sucks. Frankly, it's just too easy. I don't know. It erodes like an important thing that we used to kind of learn growing up. And it also, I mean, if you read stories from the 70s, before surf forecasting was a thing, dudes just showed up at the beach. I don't know. Are there waves? No idea. How cool is that? Like, that's great. And like, sometimes it was big. Oh, amazing. And like, you wouldn't know why. And like, or like you'd paddle out and it'd be 2 feet. And then in 2 hours, it's 6 feet. You're like, this is amazing. I've never had that experience. Like, that happens a lot in places like Hawaii, like big open ocean places where like the swells will rapidly increase in size. Less so in Southern California, but it does, it'll happen. And now you know for sure, oh, today it's supposed to be like 2 feet in the morning and then like 12 feet in the afternoon. But how cool would it have been if you just like show up somewhere to surf and the conditions are perfect and you're like, wow, this is really fun. And it just keeps getting bigger and bigger and you're just like, holy shit.
But I don't know. Does Surfline eliminate that?
Yes, entirely. Unless you don't. Well, no, if you pay attention to it, it does. If you don't, then it doesn't. I mean, you can ignore Surfline. I
guess how much of this do you think is truly the old surf sage reacting to a development, and because here's as someone who came to surfing in middle aged, and is that exact person you described of like, I'm gonna have an hour to go, and I can just drop everything and go. I'm still probably going to default to the closest place in that, regardless of conditions. And I can't drive further. I got an hour, right? So
Well,
I'm going to
that's
go
true.
where I'm going to go. So
Yeah.
maybe I'll look at the camera. Actually, a couple weeks ago was a good point. Like, so Oceanside Harbor is my go-to. It's the closest one. It's a great, it's easy parking, easy in and out, all the things that are convenient for my lifestyle, right? And there's days when I go there when I shouldn't because it can get heavier than I like.
Yeah.
But it's also like, I'm just going to go. And I will look at, and it's a high tide spot. Like it's good at high tide. So if it's high tide and it's good, then a lot of people are going to be there. But like, look, I didn't have time. It was low tide. I knew it was going to be crappy. Guess what? That's where I went, right? Because I didn't have a lot of time. I just wanted to get in the water. I don't know if, I don't know if like something like Surfline over the cameras really does it make that much of a difference? Or, because I guess my point is the older I get and the more maybe I get engaged with surfing to the point where I have more flexibility in my schedule and I can really learn to be a good surfer and not just the guy who likes to get in and play around on a surfboard, which is kind of how I feel like I am right now.
You want to maximize your water time.
Yeah, I think I will acquire the skills you're describing and maybe not be super reliant on the app itself. Does that make sense?
No, it does. It does. So it's also different because I live 13 miles from the ocean now, so I can't tell that as much from here. Like I don't have no idea what the beach is doing from where I live now. That's just not possible. And so, and the same situation for you, right? Like you don't know.
Yeah.
Like you're pretty far. Like you can
I'm
have
probably
an
about the same.
idea,
Yeah, 15 miles.
But you don't know. So like I'm talking about, most of my life I grew up within like a mile from the beach. So that's it's that kind of hyper local knowledge that I think is something that's really special. And that's the thing. Here's the thing. I hate wave pools for the same reason. Like part of being a surfer is immersing yourself in nature in a way that nothing else quite replicates. The closest thing I can come to is like fly fishing, even though it probably doesn't seem even remotely similar. That's the closest experience I've had to what it feels like to surf and to be a surfer, to be like the focal point of your life. And it's not the riding waves part is a very small aspect of that. It's everything. Right. It's the ocean knowledge. It's the nature knowledge. It's the weather knowledge. I mean, all of that sort of stuff. I mean, the other day, anybody who goes outside a lot can do this, but like me and my friend were talking about how like super accurate we are about like not having a clock and being like, oh, I think it's 4:18. Like you learn that sort of skill.
Yeah.
And you're like,
no, I can do that too. I know what you mean.
And you're like, but like that's different now. Like you have Apple Watch. You have it's just I don't know. It's just I do feel like there's a complete package of outdoor skills and appreciation and a love of all these sorts of things that is eroded when you're just sort of maximizing one part of it. And to me, Surfline is maximizing the wave riding aspect. You're like eliminating everything else. Yeah. Oh, it's glassy and fun. I'm on it. Great. I get it. Especially if you have limited time, especially if you live too far away from the beach to be able to tell that on your own. But I do think you're giving up a lot. I mean, this is the same argument I would make about like why the internet should be drowned in a bathtub. I think life was a bit richer.
But then we couldn't do our podcast.
But we would probably just be having this conversation over beers, and like other people couldn't hear us, but we'd still have an enjoyment. Like I just don't.
That's true.
I just don't know that it makes your life. I'm less happy now as a surfer than I was before Surfline existed. Now that's not because of Surfline, but I
think Surfline impacts your community more than it impacts the general surf community. And here's why. Because I think the people who are going to rely on Surfline are probably the ones who really understand it, know what you're talking about, and know like where they want to be. It's like, swell's coming in. This is the spot.
But I don't want them there either.
Worthy.
It's not like it matters.
I understand that. I wonder, it's just, is this more of but I don't think the increase in participation or even the kooks or noobs or whatever using Surfline probably are leading to maybe what you're describing you don't like about it. And I think here's why I think maybe this holds water is because, so I did a thing recently, so like my version of surfing is probably mountain biking, right? I've been mountain biking for a long time, all those kinds of things. And my issue that I had on the podcast a few months ago about electric mountain bikes wasn't e-bikes existing in the mountain biking space. It was like, wow, that is just shortening the learning curve to know how to mountain bike.
Sure.
And it's kind of, so like, totally. But it's also like, I should probably get off my high horse a little bit. It's like, well, this is just how they're going to learn to mountain bike. And if they're still mountain biking in 10, 20 years, they're still going to know all the lessons that eventually I learned as well, right?
That's true. Yeah, that's true. And yeah, I mean, that's a good point. I guess if you didn't grow up in the same analog world that I did, like it, what I'm saying is meaningless, and you probably feel like you can tell what the weather's doing and what the waves are doing by looking at the trees. Right. I'm sure they feel the same way. But I have very specific memories of being like in the car with my roommates and being like, "Oh, look at the flag! You know, again, granted, you would still do that now. You totally would still do that now. Not like you're glued
Yeah.
to Surfline all the time, but I think it's less. There's less magic. And honestly, here's the thing.
That makes sense.
I mean, you could say the same thing about the Cybertruck. You could say the same thing about the internet. We're removing like the magic part of our lives, and especially as like outdoor people. This is the same reason I don't like all trails. Or it's the same reason I don't like. Same reason that like I make fun of you for like tracking all of your like stuff.
Yeah, sure.
I just feel like there's a magic to this, and like that technology erodes it. And I don't want that. I mean, it's. I pay $8.99 or $9. I don't even know what it costs a month for Surfline. I still do because it's like, because I live far enough away from the ocean. It helps for me to see what it looks like. I mean, but like, the magic is gone. I mean, you used to just show up at the beach and you'd have impromptu conversations because like I don't know if it's going to be good. Like, you drive around and talk to each other. Like, we're growing up on the Central Coast, there was no cams. So like you drive to one spot and you'd see like your 3 buddies, be like, hey, did you guys check the rock? It looked a little weird. Let's go look at the pit. All right. And you go do that. Like, maybe the jetty's good. You can't even see that. You can't even see the South Jetty. So you have to like commit because you know what it looks like all these other places. The jetty's probably good. Let's paddle all the way across the harbor mouth and walk a mile to get to it. Like, and like there's probably a camera on the jetty now. It's just like
why can't you still do what you just described even if there's a camera on it?
Because now there's going to be 30 fucking people on it. Because they have the camera.
Not necessarily.
Yes, necessarily. I mean, that's how it is. That's what's happened. I mean, again, you can't specifically say it's because of Surfline, but I think we all kind of assume like 75% of the crowding is Surfline. You go to Ocean Beach now.
Yeah.
The crowds are going to be where the like 5 cameras are, for sure. And like they didn't pick those spots because that's where it was the most crowded. I mean, a couple of them they did, but for the most part, that's where, because it's like, oh, I see that there's waves at Taraval. I can see them. And like, I don't want to have to drive to the beach back and forth looking for the best sandbar. So now Taraval will be crowded.
I do think this is why our generation is interesting to listen to on these topics, and that's not a self-serving statement. I think because we were born in the non-technology era and now we're existing in the technology era, and I think it'd be interesting to see like what our kids say about stuff in like 20, 30 years about this.
Honestly,
what are
our
they
opinion
lamenting?
is the only one that matters. I'm
that's
dead
true.
serious about that. I don't mean that. I really mean that because we know
because
what
we
both
have the
sides
perspective.
are like. Yeah. And what I was about to say earlier is there's lots of reasons why this is the case. But I'm not happier now than I was before Surfline. So like it clearly doesn't provide a happiness. It doesn't enrich my surfing.
But isn't that a bit of a choice? I mean, I feel like a lot of these things that people when technology is kind of like put under the microscope in a negative way, I'm like, I don't have to engage with it that way either. You know?
You don't. And most of the time I don't. But this one does impact my life because I'm pretty sure it increases crowding. I mean, the other side of this equation is it's a masterful piece of technology, and it's gotten a lot better. So there's a lot to be said for the people. I mean, I know the people that work there; they do a good job. I mean, it's a pleasant site to visit, if nothing else, just as a surfer because there's great photos and it's interesting to see.
Yeah. No, I get their newsletters are great. It's fun when they're like, here's what's going on in other parts of the world that like I never would have thought to check on my own. Like, oh, cool, read about that swell that hit here, and they have great videos and stuff like that.
That's pretty fun. I will say that is actually pretty neat. Like occasionally I'll be like, up late at night being like, I wonder what it looks like at Snapper Rocks in Australia, and you can just watch people surf. I mean, that's actually pretty sweet. They probably don't like that, but I'm not going there either. So. Well,
let's go to the last one because this one was kind of gnarly. So the last story was. It's from Road.cc. It's about a cyclist who's suing Trek and Shimano for $2 million.
Yeah.
After having, I'm going to call an intimate encounter with his bike's brake lever. Apparently, this person was on a bike path, had to swerve, and the awkward maneuver caused the brake lever to hit his thigh, where it caused a foot-long wound that required a lengthy hospital stay, multiple surgeries, a skin graft, and permanent numbness. And so I wrote, my only question is, my God, what the hell happened?
I was trying to imagine that. I wonder if it was like almost like a degloving situation. Like, did it hook onto his skin and pull a bunch of his skin off?
A foot long. I mean, you've crashed your bike to the point where you had like shoulder surgery, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you had like a gnarly injury. I wrecked my bike. I wrecked my bike 2 weeks ago. I cannot imagine what happened that resulted in this.
You're going fast. I can tell you that. They're going fast.
Well, and then not the legal bit of it all. Like, okay, this is all over a lawsuit, and I didn't want to like make it as kind of a downer of a story here in the pod, but it's a suit over negligent design and failure to warn. But like, what are you looking for? Like, like the collapsible brake levers?
If you fall exactly like this, there's like at this speed. and you weigh between 185 and 190 pounds, the brake lever, 1 out of a million times will do this to your thigh. You should be warned. I mean, dude, you're on a bike, bro. Like,
Yeah.
Sue the bike company anytime you fall, I guess. Like, I don't know. I guess I probably could have sued the tire manufacturer when I fell. I didn't, like I wasn't warned that it didn't grip this fire road properly. I mean,
this goes back a little bit kind of full circle to the Everest thing and some of the conversation there of like the why we do some of these things and what's adventure and whatnot. And I mean, look, there is the element of some risk is, I think, an attractive thing here. Obviously, this guy's on a bike path, sounds like with his wife or something. That's not probably what he was out looking for. But, you're on a 2-wheel device, shit can happen,
Also, like, what? You probably have insurance. Like, you probably have insurance. Like, you probably didn't. It wasn't like it was like. I don't understand. I don't understand it. I don't. It understand.
Sounds horrible, but you're a good point. Like, you're not a paraplegic. You're not like, I don't know. Like, I definitely would. I'm interested to know more. I also don't know if I want to know more. And it also makes me think about just how messed up some things are when you go out there. Like, do you freak out when you see the families where the kids are wearing bike helmets and the parents don't wear bike helmets? It drives me fucking
I do that
bananas.
Sometimes. I do that.
What's that?
I've done that, but it's always on accident. Like, I forget to bring my helmet when I pick the girls up or something on the cargo bike.
Well, and you said if you're out with them, though, typically you're wearing a helmet.
I always do with them because I want them to see me with it. But I wouldn't wear a helmet around town otherwise.
But that's kind of my point. Like, if I just saw a random person, actually, the one thing that does drive me crazy is when you're mountain biking or whatever, and there's the person who's climbing and they've taken their helmet off and have it like on their backpack, and I'm like,
because they're super cool.
Well, it's actually.
How else are you gonna know?
It's just more comfortable to just keep it on your head. Like, why are you stopping to take it off and put it somewhere?
Because they're cooler than you, and
I must be.
And now you know that they're cooler than you.
But look, I don't want to feel bad. I feel bad for this poor person who had this wound on their leg that's a foot long. I mean, a foot long.
I would if they weren't suing a bike brand for $2 million. Like, frankly, it's like my empathy goes out the window and it's like, oh, cool. So now everything's going to cost more. Perfect.
Well,
now they're going to have to
I rather go 3 times looking for something was supposed to happen that didn't happen, right? It was just like this, under this amount of weight, it should have bent or something, you know what I mean? And like, there was some extreme example.
$2 million. I mean, like, if I had a brand new bike and the frame just literally exploded Simpson style when I fell, like no reason for there to be fire, but it's burst into flames, my mountain bike. I still don't think it would occur to me to sue Marin Bikes over it. I don't get that. I don't.
Yeah, but I don't know. I don't know what happened to this poor guy.
It kind of makes me want to ride my bikes and fall on the brake lever. Actually, the more I think about it, because maybe I could sue somebody for $2 million.
No,
Specialized has deep pockets. Let's see.
But what if you hit that 1 in a million chance, and now you've got I can't do the pod this week. I'm in the hospital because I got a foot-long wound in my thigh.
I mean, that dude from Office Space, though, I'm just like all fucked up. I'm like, and I'm retiring. It's great.
You're gonna create a jump to conclusions, Matt.
Exactly. Yeah.
Collapsible brake levers. It's a burgeoning market. It's coming up. All right, man. We can wrap it up. What's going on at AJ? What do you guys have going on? Issues coming out soon.
Issues coming out. Yeah, I think it goes to press in like a week or 2.
Nice.
So it should be hitting newsstands, or not newsstands, your mailbox, the spring issue, a couple weeks. It's a good one. It's the first one that has some changes in it. There is some other exciting magazine news, which is that the bloodsuckers that own Surfer magazine now are decided to put out a print issue. So
you told us last week.
Did I? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I know what I'm working on now, which is
okay, that's cool. Tease that.
Which is an Art Brewer, who is like one of the most legendary surf photographers of all time. And he died, I want to say like 2 or 3 years ago. And probably the best surf photographer of all time. Although Jeff Devine would probably argue with that, but just a phenomenal shooter. And really a big deal in the surf community. So we're doing like a career retrospective where I get to talk to like a bunch of luminaries about being with Art on trips and like what he meant to them and stuff like that. So that'll be a fun piece to put together. I mean, it's always fun to increase your like surf hero contact list in your phone. So
can people subscribe to that now?
I don't think it's a subscription thing. It's going to be a one-off. So I don't really know, and I don't know when it's going to come out. I know when my deadline is. So I think they're probably targeting it for this summer. But they did one with powder, and I guess it sold pretty well. And so I think it's more. It might be like testing the waters for like more print stuff. I don't know. It'd be interesting to find out how this is. I mean, there might be a pivoting back to print for some of these titles, which would be pretty cool.
There's definitely going to be. When Rogi was on, we were talking about it. It's not to say it's going to be where it was 20 years ago when you had 6 subscriptions and got what's 36 copies of a magazine, and 60. What's 6 times 12? Whatever that fucking number, 72.
72. Still 72.
Your house is just littered with shit tons of copies of magazines. It's not going to be like that anymore.
No.
But like it's the same. Like why I still buy vinyl. I don't buy physical media like I used to. If I like a movie enough, I will buy the Blu-ray so I have a physical copy of it. And it's the same thing, And I love the idea, frankly, of getting a magazine 2-4 times a year versus getting it every month or every week.
Oh, big time.
I had boxes of Sports Illustrateds when I was a kid. Just boxes.
It's so hard to make a
weekly
magazine every month. It is so, like for AJ, for example, like it's going to print right now. And I'm started emailing some people that I'm covering for the next issue, which doesn't come out for 4 months, right? So it's like, or 3 months, I guess. So, it's like even that comes up fast. Like, God, when I was at Surfline, you had to make a magazine every month. It was insane. You'd literally hit like send to the like printer, and you're already behind deadline for the next issue, and so it sucks. So like a couple a year, especially for something like surfing where everybody has social media anyway. Like you kind of do a deep dive. It's great,
and that's it. Like to maybe to frame the internet in the positive light. Back to our other conversation today, right? It's like I can get great print magazines where there's stuff in it, and I have time to read it before the next issue comes out, and I'm interested in most of the topics or whatever it is. And then in the day to day, it's like there's plenty of blogs and websites and things. You can get your fill, like little things. Podcasts are a great example of that. You can now listen to this kind of media. And before, it was only print, right? It's just like, you got to get a magazine. That's all there is. So I think the print world's going to get real good in the next few years. All right. Well, hey, listeners, before you move on to that next podcast, please take a second and follow The Rock Fight wherever you're listening. Leave us a 5-star review. It actually helps out the show. And remember, hey, buy some Long Weekend coffee. Go to longweekend.coffee. Buy some coffee. The Rock Fight's a production of Rock Fight LLC. For Justin Housman, I'm Colin Truth. Thanks for listening. Here to take us out. He just texted me and said, you should buy some Long Weekend coffee. It's Krista Makes with the Rock Fight song. We'll see you next time, Rock Fighters.